Navi and G2 played in the EWC final today, and Ancient was a really interesting map because both teams had some really good reads, like stacking bomb sites, stuff like that, and it seemed like every time they had the right read was a time that they managed to lose the round. And it's kind of interesting how that happened. I wanted to showcase that a little bit, as well as m0NESY had a fairly weak series, one of his few weak series in a long time, and I wanted to show a little bit of that too. Now, in this specific round, I've seen this already, Wonderful actually hears Hunter run away. And if you get that kill in mid, if you're going A, you're probably going to split A in this case. So this generally means they're going back B, and actually Navi is going to rotate 3 players over here in time. Alexi B was already here. Bit's in a good spot. Jail is great in a position to play the bait, but unfortunately for him, m0NESY actually doubles up, and then it gets into a 2v4 that actually somehow Wonderful and Alexi B are going to pull them out of into a 2v2, and this actually gets very awkward for G2 because Hunter's on 17 health. He can get into a pretty good position here, but it's really Malbs with just a Galil that needs to actually take some control of the map, and he's either going to win the fight or he's not, and that more or less defines the round. And in this case, he actually wins the fight against Alexi B, which gives them some space. Now, Wonderful is the one that has to make a play, and while he can make a play, Malbs still closes out the round. And man, Malbs has been an unbelievably successful pickup for G2 so far. Like, I feel like people from NA are going to say, this is exactly what I was expecting, okay? But anyone that wasn't from NA or hasn't been paying attention to you know, M80 playing that much, or even people that were, let's be honest, man, Malbs is like, you don't expect him to show up in the first event. Usually there's a bit of nerves or something, but he's just delivered like every time he's been asked for, and he constantly gets these entries in these 50-50 duels. But we're on kind of an anti-force spy here. We'll just zoom through this round. One of the other funny things about this game is that a lot of the times for this event, Navi kept starting out with these massive leads, and then somehow the games would get competitive near the end, and somehow this is actually kind of directly the opposite. But anyways, in this round, you have yet again, this time from G2, a very good read in terms of just the right call at the right moment. You're going to have Malbs somehow find an opening onto Imma. Then you have Snacks coming through Shelf, and if they can keep Bit occupied so he doesn't rotate his way over to A, I think they're fairly happy with that. But also they hear Bit rotate back towards A site. Snacks is comfortable making his way up here, so Snacks gets into a really, really strong position. And then Bit is going to be caught off guard here almost completely. Now, notably, Nico has most of the only utility. He's got the only smoke, and he might have wanted to smoke off this angle that m0NESY's holding, but there's no reason to smoke that off. You can have m0NESY smoke it off. So what he really wants here is to kill Bit and then potentially smoke off Donut afterwards. But even catching Bit looking the wrong direction, unfortunately, he can't get that kill. And what that means is m0NESY then pivots over to help support that same angle, which opens up this angle for Wonderful to walk right through. And not only does he find the kill on Malbs, but he swings out and gets the second kill on Hunter as well, and turns it into a 2v4. Now, Snacks with the lurk actually does bring something back very quickly, and m0NESY's Molly manages to take down Wonderful, so we almost immediately go back into a 2v2, but this is a super awkward 2v2 because 3 of 4 players are seriously injured in this round, and then you have Snacks who's just trying to make the rotate back around silently. m0NESY with the kill onto Alexi. Bit has to swing out to get something back, and Snacks, who, you know, stats-wise has definitely overperformed what Hooksy was doing, but at the end of the event, he only ended up with something like a 0.95, right? But at least eye test-wise, when you see the impact of his kills in the game, you can tell the difference absolutely. Like, that's one of those rounds there. The lurk, just the confidence he's playing with to get a bit more aggressive than we saw from Hooksy, where he's not scared to take some control because he knows he can win a fight if he gets in one, is, I think, very significant. Then we have the CT timeout. And Navi are going to go with a play that they don't run. This is actually a play that I looked through a lot of their games. I haven't seen them run this play before, and I have some theories as to why they're running it, but regardless, they're going to go for this play here, double aggression into A main. And on the other side, G2 were just going straight up for a 5-man A play, which is something they did 3 times in a row. I believe it was against VP. They did it 3 times in a row, and it was like this genius 300 IQ idea. And here, they actually do it quite often in this game as well. I think this is the second gun round in a row. They've gone for the same play, and I think they go for it a third time in this half as well. This time around, it absolutely catches Navi off guard, and because they were spotted so early, they're just like, okay, let's just reset. Maybe, maybe Navi saw that and they tried to retake lane, so we might want to retake that. And one of the places you might be worried about in this type of situation is middle. So they go back, re-clear it a little bit, and that helps them take lane, so they know nobody's shelf. Nico and Snacks can make their way forward, and they can take this control back. So at least Navi doesn't have a clear idea of exactly where G2 is. And that's actually going to work out kind of flawlessly in that it draws Wonderful over to the B site. Now, what they want to do, Mongols does this type of play a lot, I feel like, where they get a little bit aggressive on this side. They're trying to draw the fake so that they can, they're basically using Snacks as a decoy, right? They want to send him in. He's got some utility. They want him to maybe get a kill, die, and draw the rotate over, right? And he actually finds both kills, and the rotate doesn't happen. Now, there was something that I'm not sure if they caught it on broadcast. I can't remember. But there was something I noticed here that was actually very interesting because JL and Imma, they're actually going to move towards, like, they're starting to think about rotating. As this rotate happens, they're starting to get some control back in middle. They want to get some information. Then this play is going to happen at B, and watch what happens here from Hunter, I believe, or is it? No, it's Malbs. Okay, smoke clears out. Malbs shoots Hunter right when they were, look, Imma's in the middle of mid. Imma was about to rotate. Imma was about to move. He was about to move. Hunter gets shot in the head by Malbs. JL rotates in, picks up one. Hunter can't swing to get the trade immediately, and then they actually double up, make that triple up. And this is one. So I was saying m0NESY had kind of a weak game. Oh my god, wrong button. So I was saying m0NESY had kind of a weak game, and he still had a few really nice clutches, or at least close calls. But this is one of those ones where if he gets this kill, maybe this round is like possible, although 15 seconds left, maybe not. But he's just moving here when he shoots. He just, I don't know, he just doesn't counter strafe, or maybe he thought he was going slow enough, he was still accurate or something. But that pretty much secures the round for G2. So Navi go for the pause, and then they're going to do exactly what they did against VP, which was the back-to-back triple 3 in a row A's, although I think there was an anti-eco where they didn't go A. It's 3 gun rounds in a row where they hit A. And Navi is a team that sometimes don't have an A player. Wonderful will listen for sound, and then sometimes he'll pivot over towards middle. But if you look at what's happening on the other side of the map, Navi just went for a very fast lane control here. They go, okay, so I think this is clear. They clear it out. And then G2, despite being up 6-0, they don't have the best buy of all time. They have a player on a Tech 9, right? They don't have the buy that they're really dreaming of. But because of the insta-aggression from Navi there, you actually have them rotate into 3 players in towards the A site, and Alexa V is kind of in the perfect position, just a quarter of a second too late. If he was there a quarter of a second later, he wouldn't have been blind potentially, and he would have been able to possibly lock that whole thing down. And then Imma just doesn't get a kill. Now Wonderful's still in good position, but he has to fall back. He gets hit with the flash. So now they're 3v4 despite being in a triple A setup right before the hit happened, and it leaves Wonderful in a 1v3 that he's just going to end up saving. And this is what I'm talking about, where like teams kept having the right reads and then somehow managing to lose. Now, 2 players Donut and 1 player A site, and Alexi B it was like a quarter of a second before he would have been behind that box not getting blind, I think. It's not perfect, but still, you're expecting they're going to hold A site more often than not there, or at least set up a very winnable retake. Unfortunately for them, though, it actually goes horrifically wrong, and you do end up with the legendary 7-1 scoreline. Okay, so now we have another highly interesting round, but before we show this round, can I just point one thing out? What is this view model from Imma? This is a war crime. This is legit. Like, this should not be allowed. This is like the Davey view model. It's in the middle of his screen, dude. It's like he's playing Doom. What is this? Okay, anyways, back on topic, okay? You're gonna notice m0NESY was full blind there. This is so funny. m0NESY was full blind there, right? You notice Imma didn't kill him too quickly, right? m0NESY was full blind. m0NESY just couldn't see Imma. And so you're like, damn, Navi threw the sickest flash there, right? They must have just, what a sick flash. Here's the flash. This is the flash. This is the flash that full whites m0NESY completely blinds him, and then he turns back into a second flash. Now, look, if that flash was thrown correctly, you know, it still could have done something, but yeah, what a brilliant flash. I think other teams need to be copying that. But when I say, like, you get the one opening kill and the defense of lane topples, what I mean is, like, this is how you win anti-ecos generally, is you pick up that first kill, and then, you know, 4 players, these are 5v5 maps, right? 4 players is often not enough to do things the way you want to be doing them. So Imma's going to make his way back over to A. He's going to get boosted up, and then Bit, this time, unlike Alexi B, where he was just a quarter of a second late, Bit's just a quarter of a second on time, right? And then what you're going to see is actually Hunter, I believe it's Hunter, is trying to clear this exact angle, doesn't full clear it. So now they don't realize Imma's there. They panic when Imma actually gets this peek out. I'm sorry, it's very hard for me to find the players. They panic a bit when Imma peeks out, although they were ready for a player to come from A main, and Bit finds 2 kills. And Wonderful, with that information from Lane on B, actually gets the rotate over to A just in time as well. So on the previous gun round, we actually had Navi go again for the double A push, and this time they actually caught G2 completely off guard and got a kill. So you're going to have Hunter on the other side of things actually hold that A main push for G2, and Bit actually got run boosted here in middle, which is a really effective play, especially, so I've talked before about the glitch molly that teams are throwing that doesn't get completely put out by smokes, and they fixed that actually, but that's one of the things that made this play so effective. Part of it is that most spawns, you actually need one of the best spawns to be through that smoke at the timing to catch Bit there. But also, if you're gonna catch him, usually you'll be naded, or you'll be chunked down pretty low by the glitch molly. But the glitch molly's gone, and Snacks also managed to avoid that nade and just be there at the exact right timing. Snacks actually did have the best spawn. So Snacks gets the kill. This is the same play Bit actually went for a couple rounds prior. That's why they had B lane control so quickly when G2 was getting ready to hit A. So when nobody's there, it gives you such an advantage. But then Navi's just going to gamble stack a bit here. They're going to gamble Wonderful off of A. They've already played very heavy on A multiple times, so they're thinking G2 might be a little not wanting to hit that necessarily. And if you look on the other side, Snacks is making a bit of noise. Maybe they want to isolate him, and they are actually going to do exactly that. Imma's going to get this kill here as well, and you just have A empty, but this is why teams don't play this A lurker all the time. And some teams play them a little more than other teams, but lots of teams don't play them very often at all, because even though he knows that A is kind of clear, well, you can kind of read that that is what happened, right? And Imma, he's ready for Hunter to be in that type of position. So even though it feels from Hunter's perspective that he's got like this crazy lurk, you can kind of feel that, well, that A player, you know, they likely had a player in A main. He's probably looking for something right now. Here's where he could be. And if Hunter gets that kill on Imma, that could very well go a completely different way. But it feels like a more effective lurk sometimes than I think it actually is. It just feels like you're in this amazing spot when you might not necessarily be in one. So I'll show the final round of this half before I move on. You've actually got Malbs come out middle with a deagle. And on the other side, Navi actually opted not to go for full pressure in middle. And they actually had Bit go aggressive towards A. So they had Wonderful. He wanted to pivot back over to support in this direction. And when you look at what happens here, Malbs actually finds a timing to make his way into, this is the exact same spot that Snacks was in a few rounds prior, except their team was going A. Now, what he wants here is if he can get a bit of pressure put on B to draw the attention, because Imma and JL obviously know that this lurk is possible, although they're not really thinking that, you know, it's that likely. Wonderful. You know, there was only a bit of a gap in timing. So once this pressure starts getting put on, that's when you actually look at Malbs go for this flank, and he's actually going to find 2 kills here with the deagle on the flank. And I mean, this is again just Malbs constantly delivering. And I mean, look, he had a bit of a bait by his team, of course. They gave him the opportunity for that to work out, but there's no guarantee he even hits the shot in the flank, and there's definitely no guarantee he finds both kills and not just one. Then you have a 2v3. Navi might have saved in the 2v4 if not for the fact that it's the final round of the half, and that leaves, well, Bit eventually into an almost unwinnable 1v3, but with 2 insane shots, he makes it winnable, and then Snacks nades out the smoke and finishes them off. So Snax actually ends the half as the top fragging player in the entire server, with some pretty impactful ones to go with it, right? That double entry on B was insane, except for Malbs headshotting Hunter on the other side of the map and almost making it go terribly. So in the first gun run of the half, I think again you see a setup that G2 are going to be pretty happy with Navi running into this setup. So Nico actually makes his way over to B. He's going to throw a standard utility from long, so makes it look like there's a long player. But you have Monacy here for the triple up, and you actually had also Malbs started middle to help Hunter get some mid control before rotating back over to A. So they were kind of gambling off of that initial A rush, even on, you know, what you're looking at is potentially a bit of a bonus round. You've got Galils on the side of Navi, but what you're hoping for if you're Monacy here, I think, is this exact play, JL to walk right into you. But on JL's screen, he can see Monacy here, and on Monacy's screen, he can't see JL, because Monacy just took this one extra step out, and it's a very specific peek here that JL hits him with, that spots Monacy just where Monacy doesn't see him. And I'll show you again. So I'll show you again. Monacy does actually take the molly misses that was supposed to put him out of position. And then he just takes his little extra step out, and that's exactly what JL hits. Maybe he was worried about getting pre-fired or something. But with that, JL even gets into the bomb site. They already had the lurk smoke up. He gets a ton of control here. And actually, Nico does find the kill back. And I really like this call from Navi actively, because what happened actually is that when JL got onto the site, once JL dies here, Bit was gonna run in. He mollies towards short. He goes, well, we don't really have any smokes for long and short. We don't have actually control of anything. So he makes his way back around, and they've got, at the same time, they've got Imma making his way through A main. Again, that is a comical view model, bro. What the hell are you doing? Okay, so Imma actually makes his way out A, and he's got a really solid lurk, although I think Hunter actually hears this, which prompts the Nico rotate and Malbs to actually pivot a bit over as well. So they're in a surprisingly good setup for the situation that they're in, and Hunter is going to make his first kill. Then Nico's going to play the bait here, and actually Hunter's, I think, just going to close out this entire round, isn't he? Wow. Wow, that was amazing. I just missed every single kill. Okay, let's go back over this and pretend that I got all of them. Okay, so Hunter's going to go for the peek. Great kill. Nico is going to show up a little bit later, but Hunter finds the second. And then Hunter, now Imma's trying to clear him, and Hunter's actually not going to get the kill. It's going to be Malbs. What a play. Oh my, wow. Wow, what a play. And my observing, dude. Please note the observing. That's first try. That is the first time I tried that. I just knew who was going to get those kills. It was so obvious to me. So one of the things you'll notice throughout the game is that G2 has some very active setups that they play where they pivot around throughout the map quite often. And in this round, they're going for the double up in mid to begin with. Monacy with only an M4, unfortunately no op for him. Hunter's actually going to pivot his way over to B, spam the wall, and then come straight on back to middle. Snax actually is smoked off here, so he can't do too much. And Nico's got this little jiggle here towards B ramp, so he's probably feeling pretty comfortable in this position at the moment, like he doesn't have to worry too much. Now, one of the things that I thought was quite interesting is that Hunter's here in middle. He's trying to get some information, doesn't see anything. He's going to get smoked off in a second, actually. Oh no, he goes and drops his own smoke over to Nico. Maybe that's what he was thinking about doing previously. But Hunter's going to get smoked off here, and they're actually going to line this up specifically. Malbs is going to make his way out of Donut specifically to throw a flash here for Hunter so that a flash can pop as he throws the nade. But the thing about this flash is that if you want a flash that actually blinds this specific angle, you have to throw it. You'll see some teams throw it from a little further out, so it just gets them a little bit further. Now, this flash isn't bad, but what it's going to get is it's going to get these angles. And unfortunately, what's going to happen, Imma is just in the perfect position here, and he just absolutely destroys Hunter. And I think the thing is, I think with that flash, I think Hunter knows where that flash is landing, so he's ready for that specific angle, but Imma just hits a really nice shot, and I think Hunter didn't have head armor there because you're playing on CT side. You don't have a ton of money. You're expecting AKs. You probably don't have head armor maybe. Then Monacy's in a reasonably good position here, but this is just basically a beautiful clear from Navi. There's the flash comes through. They have a player coming around both sides. Monacy just gets baited to the other side, peeks on the wrong one. And then again, one of the things I love about Navi is just how good they are at making sure that trades are almost guaranteed. Like, look at that play. Look how clean that was. I mean, this is obviously Mobs is getting collapsed on by 3 people, but Bit's got him Tech 9. He pivots over into this left corner, so he's in a pretty good spot, right, to mow down a couple of people if he hits some nice shots. And Mobs is someone that could hit a couple nice shots, but the nade and the flash landing at the same time, there is no universe where Mobs gets more than 1 there. Like, even if he doesn't get full blind, he's gonna have to turn from that flash, which means he's getting traded 100% of the time there. Round over. And one of the things you'll notice is that Navi are winning these rounds a little more with several players alive than we saw from G2, who even when rounds were going their way, it did feel like somehow they managed to like lose 2 or 3 players a lot of the time. And a lot of that was like, Navi are a team that I've always speculated does like, they kind of like bait teams into thinking things, and then they catch them with an anti-strat. There was a major, like Stockholm Major, I saw them do the same strat 3 or 4 times during the group stage and like the quarterfinals, where I don't remember the strat exactly. I'll try and find it someday. They did this a strat multiple times, and I was like, dude, that's so counterable. Whenever they throw this nade, they do this play. And then in the final, they did the opposite. And I was like, oh my God. And the reality is probably that it wasn't planned out, but I have some faith. It's Blade, man. If it was any other coach but Blade, I'd be like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Blade, I believe it. And here's one of the rounds that I'm talking about. So I'm going to show you, okay? Because people are like, "Boo, you're wrong. That's not true." They say that because without any reason to say that, they just say it, okay? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so if you look at Navi versus Partial Buys, I believe this is at this event specifically. They have no A hits at all. Actually, none. And these B hits are actually fairly late, right? The B hits are not that early, so they go for some mid control early, then they go for B hits. Then if you look at Navi on, full buy versus full buy, you're going to notice they've got some early A hits, right? They've got some early A hits, but then generally, if you look over here, you're seeing and at the time, you're seeing past a certain time, they're pretty much hitting B, right? Like past around 105, these hits are mostly just B, right? And so I think that might be part of the reason that you see this situation here, although, there's more to it. So Nico opens middle, Nico finds a kill on Imma to open things up. Then he's going to rotate his way over to B, and they're just going to be in a 4-stack A with Nico. I'll note what he's looking through. There's a pixel that he's looking through here, but there's a more relevant round to talk about it. He's staying B. Then you actually have a full rotate back over to B right afterwards. And look, okay, they smoked off short. Okay, they did smoke off short. And maybe they had no idea what Navi does. And Navi just smoked off short. And they were like, it's time to stack B. Or maybe that when Navi smoke off short, they always go B. That's also possible. Who knows? But I thought it was interesting, I'll say, that it wasn't all the games in that event. It was like basically their last 3 months of Ancient games. On anti-ecos or anti-like partial buys, they never go A late. And then they actually in the Grand Final. Here's the thing, man. You can't bet against Navi in a Grand Final. That's in my opinion, okay? I feel like with no insider knowledge at all, just watching these games, it really does feel like Blade, once you get into a final, he's set up the dominoes, man. He's set the dominoes up. He's got plans within plans within plans within plans within plans, okay? So if we want to get into the nitty-gritty a little bit, one of the things that you do require if you want to have a player that plays aggressive on his own towards A is that you'll sometimes need to go for these double aggressions. Now, if we remember Navi, they went hyper-aggressive with that, which is a play I haven't seen them do at all before. Although, we're just coming off of a break. Maybe they've changed things up a little bit. But you're actually going to see Monacy and Snacks go here together a little more passive-like, a little more safe-like, right? And a lot of a number of rounds in this game, you actually see G2, they go for solo pushes through A main. They're very ready because Navi is a team, as well as G2, that often has just one player holding both of these areas. Oftentimes, he's looking more towards mid. He's kind of leaving that open. Lots of teams do that, but I think Navi might be a little weaker on A than some other teams, and so I think G2 wants to actually try and punish that. In middle, you have this tandem. This is a terrifying tandem to deal with, Mobs and Hunter in this position, doubled up. and you're just going to have to aim duel someone with ridiculous aim. Nico was solo on B early, and then you have m0NESY gets into this position here. Now you can see, I'll zoom in on this. This is the gap I was talking about looking through. You should be able to see someone on top of the box if they through that gap, I believe. Now, this is a setup that, again, is really strong because Nico loves playing on this long side. And one of the ways you might try and counter a player that loves playing long and plays there so often, although, to be fair, it's Nico, which is hard to deal with, you might try and walk in on him and try and trade on him. I think that makes sense as a play to try and do, especially because Snax is often up here playing very aggressively. But in this case, this is the setup I think G2 wants against this play. You have m0NESY opping long. You're going to have Navi dry walk into you. They're dry walking in. This is the play you want. But m0NESY's not quite ready for it. And I'm not sure if he was like staring so hard at that pixel that he actually thought that someone was on the box as he flicked up there, or if maybe he saw the shoulder of JL and I didn't notice it. But regardless, that is again a setup. G2 want Navi to go for that play with m0NESY opping there. That's m0NESY gets a kill, Nico pivots, the whole thing should fall apart for Navi. But regardless, it doesn't matter what setup you're in if Bit just instant one taps you. So a couple rounds later, there was a couple of semi buys, and we've got again this double push into A main. This time you've got Snax and m0NESY with rifles this time, and Snax is actually going to go all the way forward. Now in mid, you have again a fairly similar setup, although this time much more passive. Nico is going to be solo towards B, and Snax is actually going to push all the way through and catch Imma on the flank. And this is a play that I think you probably would not see HooXi do. Maybe he might get set up in an A main like that. He might go for that aggressive play. I don't think you're seeing HooXi push all the way through, but that is such a key play. Because now, if you think about it from Navi's perspective, they've lost full control of A. They weren't in position. You might want to insta-react B, but when one player pushes A, it doesn't necessarily guarantee the whole team's there. And they just weren't in position to insta-react and take that B hit immediately. So now they want to kind of move out and get some control of something, but it's just such a terrible situation to be in. And Mulbs can hear Bit drop down, so he just peeks out, gets the one kill, and then he's also got support from m0NESY, who gets into red here just in time, and this pretty much locks down the round immediately. And although that's only one kill from Snax, that is Snax getting aggressive, getting a kill, and that just completely destroys the entire game plan of Navi. So I want to go through this round fairly quickly, just because it sets up the following round and the rest of the game, in that Mulbs is going to play on top of the sign here with the smoke out, and Navi really want to go for this A hit because they've seen now G2 have got aggressive into A main multiple times. So they want to set up to try and actually deal with that by showing some aggression of their own. But what happens here is that G2's actually in this setup playing very passive on mid, even passive on B. Their plan seems to be to re-aggress mid here potentially from the start or something along those lines. And Mulbs is going to see this smoke gets thrown towards CT, and he's immediately going to toss down his own smoke here in a second. That's just going to completely stuff any plans that Navi might have had of getting aggressive. So they're actually going to fall back all the way back around to mid, just completely cancel that play. But the timing of this is I believe G2 probably know what was happening there with the timing of this. What's about to happen. Now, G2 will go for this aggression towards mid. They try and actually go for a 4-man fight. They've got 2 in Donut. They've got the 2 players towards mid, but Nico's going to find the exact perfectly worst time to clear this angle, because as he clears that angle and peeks back out, he walks directly into 2 players basically holding his exact position, which pretty much screws every plan up. And then although Mulbs can get one and almost actually turn it into a double, that's not good enough to recover the round from that point. And Hunter, in the 1v4, isn't going to find anything at all. They're just in perfect positions to convert that one. And the way that converts into the next round is they're going to send m0NESY over to look for this type of A aggression, thinking, maybe they're going to go for an A lurk. We played very aggressive towards A. In this case, Navi actually go for a straight up A rush, and m0NESY does, what m0NESY does, which is get 2 kills in a position where he should probably only be getting 1. In fact, I think if you got an opper there, and you're gonna, you know, run right into him like that, I feel like you're probably gonna take that trade most of the time, because once in a while he's gonna get 2, and once in a while he's potentially gonna get none as well. So because that play wasn't necessarily what m0NESY wanted to be playing against when he went for this, he's just gonna go back for the exact same play again. Because, you know, they're probably not going to rush A a second time in a row, right? And then you've got Hunter and Malbs playing this little thing in middle here where they're willing to contest, and then eventually they kind of pivot into a slightly more aggressive play, and they're actually going to look for some aggression in towards B lane here, with Snacks towards Cheetah, and Malbs and Hunter both jumping up to spam through the smoke here towards lane, and they actually do an unbelievable amount of damage. You can't see it on the sidebar, but 4 of 5 players from Navi are under 30 health. 4 of 5, except for Bit. He's the only one that's actually got any health to work with. And eventually, G2, they're so comfortable with m0NESY here. They do have mid control. They know m0NESY, he's going to deliver at least 1 if they show up to A, if not multiple. So they're very comfortable just taking B lane control. Now they've got full control of B lane. They can pivot their way back over into whatever setup they want. And that means Hunter walking his way back over to A. And then Bit is just going to walk straight into m0NESY here, and m0NESY doesn't hit the shot or the follow-up. Now, Hunter on the rotate in will make it work, and you've still got a rotate coming over from Malbs as well. So they're in a pretty good position here, but Hunter, as he walks around this smoke, this is also just as JL gets boosted up, and I believe JL spots him, or maybe Wonderful actually spotted him, and all of a sudden, like the perfect setup, or, you know, very good setup to deal with this play, has turned into a 3v4 very quickly. Now, Nico on the rotate and Malbs on the rotate as well will find some kills, and that actually does convert this round, and JL and Wonderful will just save. But again, it's funny, you have a really strong setup, and the setup kind of almost falls, you know? m0NESY doesn't hit his shot, and then the rotate almost doesn't quite get there in time. If Navi wasn't at 20 health among 4 of their players, I think you might see that round go a little differently. But final round of the game, obviously have to show this one. Again, similar aggression in middle. This time you've got JL going towards Shelf, but they do have multiple players on the B side. JL will get here in time to take down Hunter, and then Malbs is going to be alone in middle, but he finds the right timing to take down Imma, spins for the second, and although he doesn't get 3, that is again Malbs being in a tough situation and pivoting around perfectly in order to make, you know, over deliver on his kills, because if he dies there, they're probably losing that. You know, they're probably losing this round if he just dies without getting a single kill. But now 3v3, again you have m0NESY towards A, because if you think about it, the first time weren't really, you know, it was an A rush, he over delivered. Second time, well, he didn't really get the job done of like deterring those types of A lurks. You know, Bit just walked into him with no utility, and Bit still managed to kill him. So this time around, he's in position, again, thinking about the exact same type of play. Well, if they're going to walk out dry, I want to be here to, you know, deter that and get myself a free kill. And Navi actually looked like they were considering A, reconsider it, and make their way back over towards middle, and m0NESY, or towards Donut rather, and m0NESY's going to find the timing. He's going to get a kill onto Bit. And then I think what he sees Wonderful here, but he doesn't realize Alexa B has gotten out in front. So he gets the first kill, turns, and then he's going to try and jump out because Wonderful took that shot. Wonderful took a shot at him here, missed the shot, and so m0NESY's thinking, okay, I've got time to get out to the box. And keep in mind here, mid was empty for a long time, right? So it's possible that he's thinking that he's getting flanked and he wants to, you know, move out instead of move back. I think that's a possibility, but regardless of what the idea was, it ended up with him jumping out and dying to Alexa B, who he just hadn't spotted, and I think he wasn't necessarily expecting to be. Either he was expecting him further back or something along those lines. But they actually Wonderful actually picks up a molly off of his body as well, which doesn't make things any easier. And this is a tough situation because Nico just doesn't have the time to rotate around. Snacks actually ends up blinding Nico, and then 1v2, he can smoke on the bomb, but he's just got to try and stick the defuse. And honestly, he was really, really close to getting that, but he just didn't start the defuse, you know, a half a second too late. So if we remember the last round of regulation, Malbs and Hunter were in this exact same setup, more or less, with Hunter looking towards Shelf and Malbs looking towards mid. They didn't throw this nade stack, which actually doesn't really do almost any damage this round. One of the difference, though, is Jail actually gets dunked by the B nade this time. The timing is right. Jail gets hit to 30, so he's not in a good position actually to take down Hunter. And the biggest thing here, though, is that this timing on the flash. So if we remember last time, Malbs dodges this flash that Imma throws to swing out, and after he dodges it, turns back, gets the kill. This time, there's a second flash coming from T-spawn. It's Bit that tosses that second flash. That flash full whites Malbs just as he turns back around. That's the intention of the flash, and that actually gets him blinded. But in this case, they didn't have JL coming from Shelf to actually kill Hunter, which means that that play was just a lot harder, and Hunter managed to bring it back in their favor with a 2K of his own before finally getting traded out by Bit a little late to the party as he was throwing the flashes. Then you've got Alexi B and Bit 2v2. They can make their way into CT, but this time around, m0NESY is waiting and ready for it. And then Nico is just going to hear Alexi B run towards the bomb site. So m0NESY is going to have time to rotate in. m0NESY just wants to delay him a little bit, keep his attention so that Nico can have this flank pull off before Alexi B is ready for it. Exactly what happens. And then you end first half of OT with G2 in the lead. So second half of OT is really where G2's individuals show why they're so good, you know? You've had some individual plays from G2 throughout the game, absolutely. But this is where it's kind of constantly G2 are making some crazy plays. So here, Alexi B with the nice kill on a Snacks, but Nico takes a bit of a risk. I mean, there could be a second player cheetah, but that's a little less common. And Alexi B just gets caught with a nado. Then in middle, Hunter and Malbs are going to try and double clear Donut, and they walk into a double up of Navi as well. But Malbs with the flash and Imma just didn't have the right timing there quite. So Malbs is able to catch him, get the quick kill. Then you've got a 4v3, and it's almost like a double-edged sword because Malbs clears out so much here. G2's like, okay, we're going to set up B. We're going to set up B. And then Jail just comes back over and kills him. And Jail, you can kind of tell when you're Jail, it's like, oh, he was pretty far forward. You know, I bet they were about to set up B. He thought he thought he got one over on us, you know? But, you know, G2 did have time. They did have time here in theory to go back if they wanted. So there was plenty of options if they wanted to go back the other direction. Then you've got a 3v3. You do have Wonderful kind of thinking about it, but there's no guarantee that that wasn't just a fake with the Molly and they're actually double lurking A. So Wonderful still has to play safe. And then Hunter's in a great spot, and he's going to get a flash from Nico, but Jail is going to hear this flash. Dodges the flash, spins back around, and now you're thinking, okay, this is actually not G2's individuals showcasing their brilliance, but it's actually Navi's, because JL with that 2K, neither of those were necessarily kills he's expected to be getting. But m0NESY, you know, regardless of how good or bad of a game m0NESY's having, he's always capable of making these sorts of clutches work. And this is a great example of that because he's just so quick. He makes it so hard where, like, a typical player, you can trade on him when they go for certain plays, but he just gets kills quicker than you're really expecting. So we've got it to 15-14, and for a moment you can pretend that we're back in CSGO playing MR15 instead of MR12. I don't want to shout out Bubsky on Twitter, actually broke this round down. He's got a really interesting thing going on Twitter where he does these types of round breakdowns. But this is a great example of the individuals of G2. And this is an example of, again, the theme of this video is constantly these setups that are really strong. You running into the play that you want them to run. You know, you want, if you're Navi here, you're tripling up B, you really want G2 to go for this type of play. Bits here aggressively, he's gonna swing out. His nade does a ton of damage. He gets the insta dink, and he could get more there, but he gets insta-killed by Malbs. JL's in position for the trade, doesn't get the kill. And then you've got Alexi B, who's pillar, and he plays the bait here pretty effectively. You know, JL makes contact, Alexi B's ready to support, he swings out, and Malbs just destroys him. I mean, if you look at that, he even waited for, the smoke was up. The smoke, look, and then we'll watch this from Malbs' POV. Just running spray transfer to just, dude, what the hell, man? What the hell, dude? What the hell? Does it only count as 3 kills? Does it only count as 2 kills because he got a team kill? He gets all 3 kills here, right? No, Snacks gets the first one? Okay, never mind. He only got the assist. I take it all back. Malbs, mediocre. And a donk, come on. And just full blind running spray? All right, yeah. This is one where, again, this could be double overtime. This absolutely could be going into double overtime, but Malbs hit, at least the last 2 shots were both insta-gib, insane shots in, you know, again, you got G2 running into a setup that Navi want them to be running into, you know? And I've said this in a video, you can play the smartest CS ever, and if the other team just hits you faster in the head, right, you're not going to win. So like people want CS to be this high level tactical, like, oh, it's like chess, but you know, in FPS, it's like you're playing chess. Look, if the other team shoots you better in the head, you're still going to lose, you know? I will say this time and time again, at CS's core, the core mechanic of CS is make your opponent's shots hard to hit and make your shots easy to hit. But it doesn't matter how hard their shot is to hit if they still hit it.